All right, let's get right into it. There's this really common fear, this quiet little voice that a lot of people over 50 hear. It says the window to build real wealth has slammed shut, that the game of retirement is already over and you've lost. But what if that whole idea is just wrong? Today, we're going to break down Charlie Munger's incredibly powerful framework for how you can build $1 million nest egg, even if you're starting after 50.
So this quote, it comes from a real conversation. A 54-year-old man named Robert sat down with Munger. He had about $67,000 in savings and just felt completely defeated. Like the story of his financial life was already written, and it wasn't a happy one. And that feeling, that sense of being too late, it's something so many of us can relate to. But it's built on a total lie. And this slide, this right here gets to the absolute heart of the problem. Society sells us this beautiful but devastating lie that your chance to build wealth just sort of evaporates when you hit 45. It keeps you on the sidelines. But Munger's response is so simple and so profound. You haven't missed your chance, you've just been playing the wrong game this whole time. So what is the right game? Well, it all starts by understanding what your most powerful asset truly is. And spoiler alert, it has absolutely nothing to do with how much money's in your bank account right now. It's actually something way, way more valuable. I want you to think about an experienced doctor for a second. After 25 years of practice, she can walk into a room, take one look at a patient, and have a pretty good idea of what's going on. How? It's because she's seen thousands of cases. She recognizes the patterns. You can't learn that in a textbook, and you certainly can't buy it. It's earned. And that, right there, is your secret weapon. After the age of 50, you have something like 25 years of financial pattern recognition under your belt. You just know which business ideas are shiny traps, which investments sound amazing at a dinner party but are actually financial poison, and which people will just drain your energy and your wallet. That judgment, that ability to sidestep the big, expensive mistakes, it's priceless. Let's give this a name. Let's call it the late start advantage. See, you're not starting from zero. Not even close. You are starting with decades of tuition that you've already paid. You've learned from mistakes that younger investors are, frankly, just about to make. The key is to stop thinking of your experience as some kind of consolation prize and start using it as your primary weapon. Okay, so this all sounds good, but how do we actually put this advantage to work? Well, the very first step has nothing to do with growth. It's about defense. It's about stability. I mean, you can't build a skyscraper if the foundation is leaking, right? You gotta plug the leaks first. Munger had this great, simple way of explaining it. Trying to invest your money while you're carrying a bunch of high-interest debt, it's like trying to fill a barrel that's got a big hole in the bottom. You can pour and pour and pour, you can work as hard as you want, but you are never gonna make progress until you find that hole and you plug it. And just look at the brutal, undeniable math here. Munger called this the single expensive mistake. You're busting your hump trying to get a 9% return in the market, but at the same time, you're bleeding out 24% on credit card debt. That's not investing. Munger called it controlled financial deterioration. It's a game you're mathematically guaranteed to lose. So, what's the fix? He calls it an expense surgery. It's simple, but it's powerful. First, you pull up the last 12 months of your bank and credit card statements. Then, you go through and find all the recurring costs that were set up by a past version of you, one who maybe didn't have the same goals. And finally, you just start cutting everything that doesn't actually add real value to your life today. Seriously, Munger knew a guy who went from saving about $4,000 a year to over $26,000 on the exact same salary just by doing this.
Okay, so once those leaks are plugged, once that foundation is rock solid, then we get to go on offense. And that brings us to step 2, build for growth. This is the fun part. This is where we start to activate your unique advantages to really, really accelerate things.
Now let's talk about how this actually happens. It's a concept called the compression window. Building wealth is a lot like a construction project, For the first few years, it feels like nothing is happening. It's just dirt and concrete. Then, all of a sudden, the frame goes up and it looks like a building overnight. It's the same with money. As you see here, someone who starts putting away $1,500 a month at age 52 sees some gradual growth. But then, thanks to the magic of compounding, it just explodes, hitting over $1 million by age 67. That acceleration at the end is everything. But where do I find that $1,500 a month, you might be asking? Well, you find it by cashing in on your biggest asset, your experience. Look, the market really only pays you for one thing, how hard you are to replace. And after decades in your field, you have specialized knowledge that is incredibly difficult for someone else to just pick up.
For your whole career, you've basically been selling that expertise wholesale to one employer. Munger's big idea is to package it up and sell it retail, on your own terms. This can easily be worth 2 to 3 times your salary. Remember Robert from the beginning? After 22 years in logistics, he started his own little consulting gig. In 18 months, he had completely replaced his old salary, which freed up a ton of cash to pour right into that compression window. So we've got our 2 steps: plug the leaks, then build for growth. But Munger's final piece of advice is maybe the most important of all. It's about figuring out the why. What's the actual goal here? What scoreboard are we really playing for?
See, most people are working toward a vague feeling, like security or financial freedom. But a feeling is like the horizon. You can walk towards it forever, and you'll never actually get there. Munger was adamant you need to have a written number, a specific, concrete dollar amount that you need your investments to generate each month. That turns a fuzzy feeling into a real destination on a map.
And this is what it's all for. This is the real prize. When Robert finally hit his number, 1.1 million at age 65, he had this huge realization. It wasn't about the money. The money had bought him something he never truly expected. It had given him his time back, time that was no longer owned by a job or a credit card bill. That is the real product, freedom.
So there you have it. The path forward is actually pretty clear. You start by leveraging your judgment, that's your late start advantage. Then you perform an expense surgery to plug all the leaks. Once you're stable, you pour fuel on the fire and maximize that compression window by monetizing your irreplaceable skills. And all along the way, you're guided by that one written number. It's a real actionable plan.
The end of your financial story has not been written yet. And here's the secret. The journey doesn't start with some huge 10-year plan. It starts with one small decision. Robert's journey started with one. Every success story Munger ever saw started with one. So the real question, the one I want to leave you with, is this. What is your one decision this week?